Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of PCA Sim Racing from Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Time to bring you our second race of the evening. It's the Sport Class presented by Leland West. Leland West, rest insured. James Mike here with Taylor Burris and our producer Ryan Bowers. We get set for more action from PCA Sim Racing and get set to bring you the grid for our second race of the evening here on a special weekend in which we share a lot of track time at Road Atlanta between real life and virtual life. Between races, you saw some of the action from this weekend's Peach State 225 Enduro and Sprint races. Real life action at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta this weekend. Jensen Benet, fast time, a 126.861 to go to the top of the board. Sebastiano Ballastieri rolls off from P2. Third is where you'll find Bob Moore. Earl Orange Jr. rolls on tonight from fourth. Fifth will be Michael Masters. Chris Duffy will roll off from sixth. Gregory Sampson begins tonight from seventh. Eighth will be George Markadakis. Ninth is where you'll find the 15 of Dwayne Cronin. And 10th is where the one of Gary Rashford began.
Starting in the 11th position is car number 11, Lon Ray Sarumi. In 12th, you'll find the 36 of Stuart Nelson. In the 13th position, you'll find the 7 of Ken Estrix, followed by Peter Xerxes in the 54. He'll be rolling off 14th. 15th will be Oregon Gerlach in the 23 car, and then in the 16th position, you'll find David Palmer. 17th will go to Antonio de Silva, and then Mo Dakar will be in 18th. Donald Beagle will be starting from the 19th position, and Will Kelly will round out your top 20.
Shahar Katz begins tonight from 21st. 22nd is where you'll find Al Sadouk. Jason Ball begins tonight from 23rd. 24th is where you'll find the 944 of Ryan Mcgee. Theodosius Neokley is back after big-time race at Laguna Seca. He will start 25th. 26th will be Jeff Williams. Randall Ailes rolls off in 27th. 28th will be Stephen Messina. Arnie Klassen 29th on the grid tonight. And 30th, Dean Chapman.
Chip Witt will be starting in 31st, followed by Rusty Pruden in 32nd. Ronald Cahill will be starting in the 33rd position, with Julian Velez in 34th. 35th will be Jody Papora and Nicholas Kalani in 36th. 37th is James Bernard as the last car to take a time. In 38th, you'll find Stephen Bukowski, David Centell in 39th, Brandon Jadette in 40th, and Carl Barcheri will round out your 41-car field.
As we carry on and get set to go racing at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta once again. Same setup as our first race in the challenge class, but 40 minutes this time instead of 30. Same track temp, same wind, same humidity at 65, 67 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 miles an hour to the northwest, 69% humidity as we get set for the green flag, and we're underway in our second race of the evening. The Sport Class presented by Leland West is underway from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Big move there from Benet, and Bob Moore is going to have to slide back a little bit. Earl Orange Jr. with that good run into second immediately, and he's got Chris Duffy in the rubber duck machine trailing him in third, with Markadakis and Moore, who slid back to fifth. Was not a good start for Bob Moore at the beginning of this race, and he will have some work to do to get back up to P2 as they climb up through the S's the first time.
I tell you what, another driver who's going to have a lot of work to do tonight will be Sebastiano Ballastieri. He actually missed the start due to the fact of some issues, so he is going to be dropping all the way back to about 39th. Well, he will have a lot of work to do as he will try to work his way up to the field in 40 minutes.
A little bit more time for drivers to work their way through the field here and find some sort of space. But as it stands, it is Jensen Benet who jumps ahead of Chris Duffy by a good margin. He's already out in front by 1.3 seconds as the conga line begins. And it's Bob Moore who's now under fire from Michael Masters in the 270. Moore may lose sixth if he's not careful.
It's going to be a whole lot if he sees that. Bob Moore is trying to hold it, but he'll look to the inside of George Markadakis as Michael Masters will take a peek to the outside as they come out of turn number 10A and 10B. Underneath the Suzuki bridge they will go, and Bob Moore will hold off and remain in P5. But Michael Masters still trying to put the pressure on him as they come out of the final turn.
Michael Masters indeed trying to put the pressure on, but to no avail at this stage as they carry on through 1 and 2. And Chris Duffy now trying to make his way. He got around to Earl Orange Jr. over in turn 1, so Rubber Ducky now up to P2.
He is definitely, but he's trying to get up to number 1 to catch up to Jensen Benet in the 718 as they come out of the S's up to turn number 5. Benet, though, just running very good lines and consistency. In fact, with a second faster, over a second faster than our second place driver of Chris Duffy this last time by, as they now work through turns number 6. And coming out of turn number 7 right now, they'll make their way down the back straightaway.
So Chris Duffy with that really strong run last week at Barber Motorsports Park, continuing his charge, and he's got 1.7 seconds to try and catch Jensen Benet, who's been the fastest driver in this class pretty consistently throughout the season to this point. Those front 3, though, have split up from the rest of this group. And the first proper battle, we'll have to go back to 7th. Gary Rice, Gregory Sampson, Dwayne Cronin, 7th, 8th, and 9th on the racetrack.
And Gary Rice is a hometown. He's a Peach Stater as he is currently sitting in that 7th position, trying to see if he can get into the top 5. He has to hold off Gregory Sampson, though, as they go underneath the Suzuki Bridge and make their way out of the final corner. But he is running really good right now. He's currently sitting in 7th in that number 1 Porsche.
Doing a nice job of sitting in P7 as he carries on, and he's going to try and gap Gregory Sampson and go try and run down Michael Masters in the number 270 machine. Good run, though, for Sampson, who was able to climb through the corner very nicely as Rice continues to hunt and see if he can get after that 270 car. You're right on board with Sampson, looking out at Rice's very, shall we call that like almost a marine blue, Taylor?
I would call that a marine blue.
There probably is a proper Porsche color name that we're blanking on somewhere in here, so we'll let chat clue us in the right direction and tell us what color we actually need to be calling that. But Sampson doing a nice job of keeping Rice on his toes. He is all over the rear bumper of the number 1 car, and it looks like for a moment Sampson was going to have the run down the straightaway and may still head into the chicanes, but this is easily top battle on the racetrack, and now there he goes to the inside. He crosses over Rice, and we'll see if they tangle or whether or not Sampson takes over the position in the chicane.
They're going to be side by side as they go into turn number 10. Into the braking zone they'll go. Sampson, though, backs off, plays a little bit of sportsmanship, lets him go this time around as they come up over the crest of the hill of the Suzuki Bridge and dive back down. Sampson has caught up and tried to keep up with Gary Rice. Meanwhile, they have caught up to the 270 of Michael Masters and the 772 of Bob Morris. But here comes Sampson to the inside as they head into turn number 1. Side by side they'll go, and then right there, Rice shut the door on Sampson.
Oh, it was really tight. Sampson had the ability to try and press the issue, but he declined to force the issue. So now they all have an eye out on Michael Masters, who is beginning to bottleneck this group. Sampson's still putting all kinds of pressure on Rice, but now I wonder whether or not Masters is going to play into this.
He's playing a little bit of it. He's keeping up, though, with Bob Moore for that 5th position as they go down this short chute to make their way up to turn number 7 right now, and still putting that pressure on. You see, Michael Masters will take a peek to the inside of Bob Moore, but can't quite get his nose to the inside of him just yet as they come up to turn 8. Here comes Dwayne Cronin. Where did he come from? As we see Sampson get loose out of turn number 8.
How wild was that? We saw Sampson all over Gary Rice for spot, and then Dwayne Cronin was able to take advantage of a mistake from Sampson coming out of turn 7, and now Sampson looks like he may fall back to 9th if Cronin can complete the pass to the chicane this time around.
He's going to try as they're going to see who will be the bravest of the two as they hit the braking zone. Dwayne Cronin, he's good on the brakes so far, but he will not be able to make that pass work this time around as they come out of turn 10B underneath the Suzuki Bridge, and Gregory Sampson will retain that 8th place position.
So Sampson hangs on to 8th. He forces the issue and is going to start running down Gary Rice again. Meanwhile, Michael Masters has started to scoot away on the 7. So it looks pretty clear to me that Sampson probably has the pace out of this bunch. It's just a matter of whether or not he can find space to get around Gregory Sampson. And then once he pulls that off, then you'd think he'd be in good shape to potentially get around. Oh, there goes Sampson. As soon as we talked about him, no sooner had we said anything that he loops it around in turn 3. And the commentator's curse is clearly alive and well as Sampson backs it into the fence and will lose all that track position.
Dropping all the way to 18th and bound to lose more positions as he goes through the grass, cuts through one of the back roads right there, but I think he's going to wait. and before returning back out onto the racing surface. But a tough break. He has dropped all the way back to P24. So a tough break for the 91 Porsche.
Really tough break for Gregory Sampson, who was having a good run, had a lot of speed and plenty of promise in his number 91 Porsche Cayman GT4, but now all the way back in 24th position, and that really has separated everybody. The next best battle in the top half of the field now belongs to, a few ones. You've got Lanre Sarumi and Stuart Nelson. You've got Ken Eskridge and Mo Dadka. And then you've got Peter Yerxa and Shahar Katz fighting all around, call it 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th or so.
Pretty much from 10th all the way to 15th, we have battle for position right now. As we see Mo Dadka is trying to get around the 7 of Ken Eskridge as they look to the inside as they make the run up to turn number 1. Mo will complete the pass and move him up to P11, setting his sights on the 36 of Stuart Nelson.
So Dadka gets this spot. That's another spot for Team Haggerty as well. Good run for Team Haggerty in this place. Good run for Team Haggerty in that challenge race earlier. So stepping up are the blue and the white cars tonight at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Dadka now really with a strong run through the S's, beginning to stretch it out on Eskridge. He's got about 7/10 of a second within half a lap of the pass.
And running really good lap times. He was actually faster than Stuart Nelson, ran a 1:29.07 compared to Nelson's 1:29.4, and was even faster than the 11 of Lanre Sarumi. So he's on pace to catch up maybe to Lanre, and maybe if we have some time, catch up to the 15 of Dwayne Cronin. He was actually faster than Cronin last time around.
By about a 10th. It was a 1:29.1 to a 1:29.0 for Dadka and Cronin, who is still trying to fight Gary Rice. And we still see that one car in some form of battle. Meanwhile, Michael Masters has caught up with Bob Moore, and this would be a battle for 5th if Masters can get around the 772.
And don't forget George Markadakis, who's right up the road from him, either about a second ahead of Bob Moore. So we have a 3-car battle for 4th position. If we see, here comes some lap traffic coming off pit road, so that could throw a little bit of an interesting situation. But the lap car stays up high, lets the cars of the lead lap pass through, no problem through turn 3, and continue on. So, but I think that might have slowed Masters just a tad to keep up with Bob Moore.
While we have a moment, we'll take just a few seconds to tell you a little bit more about Mike Masters, as he's known out of the Space Coast region of the PCA, resides in Daytona Beach, Florida, and has been racing on computers since before there were PC steering wheels. They used to have a joystick to steer way back in the day. He's been involved off and on since Series 1 of PCA Sim Racing, but is well invested in iRacing. One of the early adopters who got on the sim first in 2008. And his stories from back then are pretty good. He made note of the point that the tire model back then was terrible, but no one knew any better and everybody still had fun. And he's maintained his membership ever since. He used to own a 1975 914 Porsche. That was the favorite of the ones he's owned, but the 935 turbos in the late 70s hold a special spot in his heart. It's his favorite Porsche of all time. He built his first PC more than 30 years ago out of discarded parts, which he had to arrange in a cardboard box because he couldn't afford a case. So you want to talk about old school investment in this. Michael Masters definitely counts and then some, I think, Taylor.
I say a big A++ for ingenuity using a cardboard box as a case. That's something you don't hear of every now and then, and that is definitely shows how committed he is when it comes to technology as well as also sim racing.
As we carry on and work our way through this evening's event at Road Atlanta, we'll remind you that tonight's setups are partially brought to you by Virtual Racing School. Drivers have the option to run VRS setups in every PCA Sim Racing event. And for more information on VRS, you can visit them at virtualracingschool.com. Bob Moore hanging on to fifth ahead of Michael Masters. But Chris Duffy and Earl Arch Jr. in a good battle. And here comes Earl Arch Jr. He thought about peeking to the inside of... I feel like Rubber Duffy is a given at this stage. Is it not, TV?
I agree. I think we have a nickname for Chris Duffy now, as he's trying to hold off Earl Arts Jr. Earl Arts almost made contact with Duffy as they both almost came side by side through turn number 12 as they come down the front straightaway into turn 1. But Earl Arts is just putting on a great performance, trying to find a way to get around Chris Duffy as Duffy hits the curb, bounces that Porsche around a little bit as they climb up the hill into turn number 3, diving it in there. You see Duffy's just trying to hold off Earl Arts Jr., but I'm wondering if Arts gets around Duffy, can he have anything for our race leader Jensen Benet?
Almost feels like I'm watching a fencing bout. There's a jab and then a parry. There's another jab from Arts and then a parry from Chris Duffy in the what I think we're going to have to christen as the Rubber Duffy machine. But now here comes Arts to the inside over in turn 6. Is Duffy going to give it up? Not entirely. He's going to try and keep it rolling on the outside, but you can only keep that up for so long. And Duffy is going to cede the spot, so Earl Arts Jr. now up into second, and Rubber Duffy slides on down into P3.
I don't think you could have put a piece of paper, or in Duffy's case, a rubber ducky, in between those two Porsches when they made contact with each other. Now the front back straightaway they'll go. You see Duffy now moves ahead of Earl Arts Jr. as Arts now hits the braking zone. And will Earl be able to respond in turn 10? The answer will be no, not this time around, as they climb up the hill underneath the Suzuki Bridge.
And that, I think, was more of a setup difference than anything else. You saw the top end speed that Duffy had at the very, very end of that straightaway. It was so much greater, and it made a big, big difference, I think.
As they had to negotiate around a lap car that was stuck on the course, but they would continue to get going. That was a close call for Earl Arts and Chris Duffy, so they're able to continue on, though, but has lost pretty much 3 seconds on our race leader, Jensen Benet.
Oh, Benet is very, very much gone. It's 8 seconds between first place Jensen Benet and Chris Duffy in the number 924, who holds second ahead of Earl Arts Jr. And then you've got that trio, Markadakis, that you mentioned, Taylor, with Bob Moore and Michael Basters, and then Stuart Nelson and Peter Yerksha in a good battle for the 10th spot as well. As we're starting to see some drivers come down pit road, or Gungaral has pitted from 17. You will see pit stops in the final 3 races of the evening, and we've talked about the advantage of short pitting. If you nail it down right, there's certainly a little bit of give and take that you get out of it. And if you're in the back of the field, I think there absolutely is incentive to try and come down earlier and short pit and gain some time on the drivers ahead of you.
It can be very good for these strategies, especially for those back markers, to try to see if they can leapfrog their competition once the others start making their pit stop. But it's critical that you have to make sure that you don't make sure. First of all, try not to take tires, because that will just ruin your race here with these short stops. But also take care of your tires, because some drivers may try to see about taking care of their tires early on in the race. If you use your tires up this early on, you are bound to lose time and positions as this race winds down.
We take a look at Jason Bound, the 35 machine out of the Western Michigan region of the PCA, which covers a tremendous amount of fun places in the Wolverine state, and lots of entertaining bits and pieces to go around for all the Wolverine fans, and maybe the Spartans too. Can't forget Sparty alongside the Blue as well. I know they don't necessarily like each other, to say the least, but covers Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, and Traverse City. So basically, some of the big cities that aren't, Lansing, Battle Creek, or Detroit, Saginaw for that matter, all going to be captured in the Western Michigan region of the PCA.
Oh, looking now at the field, Earl Arts Jr. has able to get around Chris Duffy, dropping him back to P3. Earl Arts Jr. now is starting to pull away just a little bit over Chris Duffy. About 0.7 of a second separates the two drivers now as they continue to push forward through the field. Currently still nobody inside the top 10 has come down pit road at this time. So we'll still continue racing here at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta.
Approaching the halfway point of this second race of the evening as Earl Arts Jr. continues to pace Chris Duffy, who gets that great run down the long straightaway. He's got the number 924 tuned for top end speed very nicely, but I just don't know if there's enough speed in the rest of the track, and that's really where Arts is making his moves. And speaking of moves, how about Stuart Nelson, who will cede the spot to Peter Yerksha in the 54 machine. Yerksha out of the Down East region, Scarborough, Maine is where he calls home, and he will take over P10 at this time.
Great job for Peter as he comes across the line and pulling away from Stuart Nelson right now in that 36 Porsche as they head into turn number 1.
Solid one from Yerkson to get into the top 10. Nelson will slide back. Shahar Katz also in the mix there too. Another good battle. Steven Vecina and Al Sadouk in 14th and 15th. Those two are pretty much nose to tail on top of one another. You look at the back of Vecina's machine looking towards Sadouk. And Sadouk, another one of the Eastern Buckeyes. We mentioned that region a little bit earlier in the evening in the Challenge broadcast, hailing from the Youngstown, Ohio area. We'll keep an eye on Vecina, see what he can pull in the number 914.
Another driver that we're keeping an eye on is Sebastiano Ballastieri. He was starting second and has now climbed his way up to 17th after having some technical difficulties with his Porsche, but is now back working his way up through the field, still on the lead lap, and about 2 seconds back from the 91 of Gregory Sampson.
Ballastieri out of the metropolitan New York region, just hanging out in 17th. Meanwhile, Vecina, who we were just on racing with Sadouk, out of the central New York region, which covers Binghamton, Oswego, Syracuse, New York. You got a soft spot for the orange, that's where you'll need to be, as looks like Sadouk will indeed complete the pass on Vecina, so Alf Sadouk goes up into 14th.
Let's take a look at our Peach State driver, Mr. Gary Rice, currently sitting 7th place. He's in a battle still with George Markadakis and closing in once again now as he makes a small error, bobbles back just a little bit, drops it into a second gap, so that battle will kind of die off just for a brief moment, as Dwayne Cronin also is in a tight battle as he's trying to get around some lap traffic to work his way, get back to the back bumper of Gary Rice.
Which is a tough place to be. That's Jody Podpora in the yellow machine that you see. And if you go up through the S's, it's one lane pretty much through there. There's not much you can do. And frustrating indeed for Cronin to lose the track position that he did. But it's not like he had an option, I think, to try and get around Podpora as narrow as that section of the track is.
Yeah, it's very difficult. We've seen that in sports car racing. You cannot try to go 2x2 through that section. You'll either end up in the grass or, the worst, the tire barriers. For the most part, we saw that earlier this year, in fact, with the Michelin 6 hours at Michelin Raceway. So it's very difficult for work through there. So we'll have to see if Dwayne Cronin can pick up some time through this section of turn 10, and which he's known for. He's been using the brakes late into the corners, which helps him gain that needed tenth or two to help catch up to his competitors. So right now he's sitting about 1.7 seconds back from Gary Rice.
Gary Rice continues to hold on to P7. Cronin still in the mix there. Stuart Nelson and Shahar Katz in a good battle of their own. Yerkes started to dust these two that it was riding behind not too long ago. And then Rice trying to run down Markadakis, who's only about 8 tenths ahead of the number 1 car.
Yeah, Gary Rice still trying to hold strong right now as he's trying to catch up to Markadakis, but looking through the field right now, pretty much everybody has separated themselves. No major battles as far as right now. Of course, Jensen Benet has pretty much checked out on his own zip code right now in that number 718 Porsche. Currently just absolutely destroying with the lap times he's running. 127.30 his last time around, but he's got a little bit of lap traffic in front of him through turns 10A and 10B. Let's see what he's able to do. Easily overcomes the lap traffic and continues on.
We've hit the halfway point of tonight's race, and it's time to bring you our Midway race break, which is brought to you for the sport class by Leland West. Leland West was started by PCA member Holly Bromberg after he recognized the need for more affordable Porsche insurance. They quickly found that over 11,000 PCA members also share this need. And since 1981, Leland West has offered its select automobile insurance program to PCA members across the United States. Working with collectible automobiles on a daily basis makes working at Leland West as fun as insurance can be. Following in Holly's footsteps, they know their enthusiasm and expertise helps make them the best choice for collectors and enthusiasts alike. Leland West, rest insured. No surprise to see the Lincoln Trail region's Jensen Benet back on top after claiming victory a few weeks ago in Mosport. An incredibly quick run so far for Benet in that 718 machine. Earl Arch Jr. rides in the second spot out of the central Pennsylvania region of the PCA. Points leader coming into tonight as well. Chris Duffy, Rubber Ducky, out of the Florida Citrus region, runs in the third position at this time, about 2.5 seconds back of Arch. Bob Moore has fourth. at this time. Riding along and trying to carry it for the Northeast region is Moore in the 772. Fifth belongs to the 270 of Michael Masters out of the Space Coast region that we spoke of just a few moments ago. We've talked a lot about the man in seventh. That's Gary Rice out of the P-State region of the PCA. He's on home turf and is only about 8/10 back of George Markadakis, who runs in the sixth position of the Metropolitan New York region. Those two running pretty close together on the racetrack as Dwayne Cronin in the 15 car rides in eighth. He out of that very oddly shaped Ohio Valley region that stretches both sides of the riverbank and carries from Mount Huntington all the way down to Cincinnati. Ninth in this race belongs to the 7 of Ken Escrews out of the Heart of Dixie region, and he's not terribly far away from home after racing at his home track last week. 10th belongs to the 54 machine of Peter Yuksha out of the Down East region out of Maine. The Mainer holding the final spot in the top 10.
Not too far behind Peter Yuksha, we will now see Stuart Nelson, who's now moved up inside the top 10 after that, as a couple of cars are making their way down pit road. But he started in the 12th position, worked his way up inside there. Currently now also sitting in the 12th position is Sebastiano Ballastieri. He started in second. He's moved his way back to 12th after having some issues early on, but it's making a nice recovery. In the 13th position, you'll find the 91 of Gregory Sampson. He was inside the top 10 and running quite strong, but a small mistake coming out of turn number 3 has cost him to where he drops back to 13th. 14th position, about 1.5 seconds back, you'll find Stephen Bassini in the 914 Porsche, as he is currently sitting there. He started 28th, so he's one of the biggest movers here in tonight's race. About another 7/10 of a second back, you'll find the 35 of Jason Baum, starting in 23rd. He's currently holding on in 15th. Arnie Clayson in the 242 car. He's currently sitting in 16th after starting 29th. So a great effort for him as he is trying to run down Jason Baum, but has a lot of work to do after being 17 seconds back. We go a little further back into the 16th position. You'll find David Centell, who started 39th, one of the last few cars who did not take a qualifying time. He's doing a great effort for him here tonight. As we go back to 18th position, Ronald Cahill in the number 4. Started 33rd and is now trying to keep up with the 26 of David Centell. In 19th, we will find Antonio De Silva in his number 24 Porsche. He's been started 17th and has dropped to 19th, so he has a little bit of work to do as we approach the halfway point. And then, of course, one of the Buckeye drivers, Al Sadouk in the 006. He is in 20th. Started 22nd, so he's gained a couple of positions since the drop of the green flag.
21st at this stage belongs to the number 9 car. Texan Will Kelly rides in 20th now. At 21st is where you'll find Antonio De Silva, who hails another one of those Metro New York drivers riding along in 21st. 22nd in tonight's race is Ryan Mcgee, the Nordstein region, hailing from Minnesota. That's where Mcgee comes from, and appropriately a green car to almost match the old Minnesota Nordstein's jerseys. Orgunga Rao coming around the corner here, rides in the 22nd position at this time. Ryan Mcgee has slid back into 23rd. 24th is where you'll find David Palmer in the 43 car, another one of the Allegheny drivers out of the Pittsburgh area. 25th in tonight's race belongs to 24th rather, belongs to Jeff Williams in the 517 out of the Pacific Northwest region. He covers all the action from the Seattle area. Shahar Katz rides along in 25th at this time after making his pit stop. James Bernard is the next driver we've not talked about. He currently sits in 27th position on the racetrack. Riding along one lap down. Bernard out of the Alaska region of the PCA, one of the most far-flung members of tonight's action. Jody Podpora holds 28 at this stage. He's the 113 machine out of the Rocky Mountain region. And Nicholas Kilnani holds 29th at this time. He a driver in that number 22 machine out of the Las Vegas region of the PCA. 30th in tonight's race belongs to the 221. It's the car on Theodosius Neokley, who comes down pit road for service out of the Metro New York region.
And 31st, you will find, now moving up to 30th, will be Randall Ayers right now. He's currently started in 27th. He's the last car one lap down. In the 32nd position, you will find Mo Dutka. He was inside the top 10 early on, but is struggling after a little bit of some pit stop and some errors on track. He is 2 laps down, the first car 2 laps down in 32nd. 33rd, you will find the 53 of Steven Bukowski. He's been running inside the top 30 for most of the race as he is working his way through, trying to catch up, but about 48 seconds back from Dutka. In 34th, you will find the 02 car of Donald Beagle. He's actually in a gaggle of cars right now. He started in the 19th position, but struggling here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. In the 35th position on pit road right now is the 77 of Brandon Jadette. He is trying to get his car repaired and get back out on the racetrack. In 36, you will find the 171 of Chip Witt. He's currently 5 laps down after starting in the 31st position. In 37th, you will find Dean Chapman in the 605. Started in 30th, but is still struggling here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. The next few cars are currently out of the race. You will find in 38th, the 11 of Landre Sarumi is out after some technical difficulties and an issue on track. In 39th, you'll find Julian Velez. 40th, you'll find Rusty Pruden. And 41st, you will find Carlo Porcheri.
And that concludes our midway race break for the sport class of PCA Sim Racing, which is brought to you by Leland West. Leland West, rest insured. Tonight's broadcast is also brought to you by our friends with the Z1 Analyzer. The Z1 Analyzer application is aimed at improving the most important part of the car, you, the driver. The Z1 Analyzer gives you easy-to-understand explanations on where you're losing and gaining time and advice on how you can improve your driving. With its many analysis screens, including the lap overview, driving line, brake analysis, turn analysis, and track walk, you'll be able to quickly find out where you can improve and gain seconds and consistency. Included with the Z1 software, using the Z1 Analyzer to examine your laps is an essential tool to becoming a faster driver and ultimately gets you in the victory lane more often. To find out more about the Z1 Analyzer and the Z1 Dashboard, please visit www.z1dashboard.com. And of course, Z1 Analyzer is offering a free software package with the Z1 Dashboard to one PCA Sim Racing ADE student each and every Friday night during Series 5 of PCA Sim Racing. And tonight, that winner is Robert Cottle from the Intermountain region of the PCA and a driver in the club class. The PCA's ADE program provides anything from entry-level to advanced sim racing coaching. And you can sign up for the ADE program at PCASimRacing.com/ADE to win this software today. Benet has stretched it out to almost 30 seconds. Cronin has cleared Rice for that third position, but neither of those two drivers have yet to come down pit road. But Jensen Benet is going to make his call now. The leader in for his fuel stop of the race, TB.
He is going to be coming down pit road, and that long pit road, about 40 miles an hour. He'll finally hit his pit box, get the needed fuel, and see if he can beat off Bob Moore, who's also going to come down pit road. Let's see if Cronin and Gary Rice come down pit road. The answer will be yes. Now the race will be to see if he will be able to beat off Earl Arch Jr. He just now came off pit exit. He hits a hammer down and gets out on the racetrack. Earl Arch Jr. is still ways away, so he will easily retain his race lead and continue on his way back out onto the racetrack.
It was about 20 seconds from Benet to Arts. It's now down to 9 after the pit stop, but still, Jensen Benet has opened it up on this field significantly. Meanwhile, Arts has stretched it out to about 3-4 seconds maybe over the 9:24 of Chris Duffy, who was racing for the second spot not too long ago. So Duffy has managed to lose some time to Arts, but gain time on Bob Moore, gain time on Michael Masters, gain time on a lot of drivers here. There's a lot of folks come out of pit road. Ken Eskridge, the highest running driver who's yet to make his pit stop for tonight's race. He currently runs in P3, some 12 seconds rather back of race leader Jensen Benet.
Yeah, he's the only one. Well, there's one more driver inside the top 10 who has yet to pit. That is the 35 of Jason Baum, who currently sits in P10. Everyone else, pretty much from all the way from our race leader to Sebastiano Ballastieri, have already made their pit stop. Al Sadouk, Ronald Cahill, also waiting to come down pit road, which I believe both those two drivers are coming this time around.
keep an eye on whether or not Eskridge decides to make the move this time by out of the Hunter-Dixie region, and indeed I think he does. He pulled over to let Chris Duffy go, and that is as good of an indicator as you're going to find that Eskridge is going to come down for service. So the 7 car is in on lap 21, coming to lap 22 of the 28 we expect to have in tonight's race.
So a couple of drivers also make a second pit stop. Looks like Sebastiano Ballastieri has made a pit stop as we are seeing to see who else will come on pit road. And trying to see a car that just went off. A big incident in turn number 10 right now, as it looks like Dwayne Cronin, Ryan Mcgee all got involved in an incident, and also Will Kelly.
So a wild one here that Cronin did not start. And I wonder if this begins with Kelly, perhaps. Kelly's the first one to go around over in the chicane. He gets on the grass trying to widen his arc and spins himself out. Then Ryan Mcgee does the exact same thing at the second part of the chicane, got on the grass and came right down the racetrack and into the line of Dwayne Cronin, who had absolutely nowhere to go. So an unfortunate break for Cronin, who still holds ninth, but is now down the running order from where he was, and it won't quite be the finish as Cronin now slides and pounds the wall down at the bottom of the S's. So significant amount of damage for the number 15 machine, and what was bad just got worse.
Very hard contact to that concrete barrier. I mean, I'm surprised that car's still even moving out on the racetrack.
You can see Gregory Sampson just now working his way past Cronin's wounded machine, who had a solid run going, and then all of a sudden, big trouble for Cronin and company here in this final 5 minutes and change stretch of the race. A tough break for the 15 machine.
Very tough break indeed, but so far, he will drop all the way. He needs to come down pit road to get that damage repaired, but we'll see if he's going to stay out on the racetrack and continue. Meanwhile, a little further up the road, the closest battle that I can see that's inside the top 10 is between the 1 of Gary Rice and the 7 of Ken Estrick. Those two drivers are going to be doing battle for 6th position as they enter turn number 1. And Estrick is running pretty consistent lap times compared to Gary Rice, as his best time, or his last time, well, he just came off, so this is his out lap after on pit road, so he'll have to see what he can do to catch up to the Peach State region driver of Gary Rice.
Feels like we talked about Gary Rice so much tonight. He's been at the heart of just about every single battle, and now it's Eskridge that he's going to race for a spot at the very end of this. They've separated themselves from Peter Yerksa. It's about maybe 8 seconds back to Eskridge and Rice and company, but have also lost time to Michael Masters, who is clear of Gary Rice by about 5 seconds.
As the laps continue to wind down and the time continues to wind down, it's only going to be seeing who can be able to survive these last few minutes right now. Jensen Benes trying to negotiate through by himself, clear a track in front of him, so he just has to hit his marks, hit his laps, and he could take home another victory and look to his brother and say, hey, can you top that?
Or at least match it. It's been done once already this year. The Benet brothers were victorious at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park 2 weeks ago. So not impossible, but certainly a pretty good challenge to throw down if you are a Benet here in this sport class presented by Leland West. He's got no competition at the front, and even through a good chunk of the field, you have to go back to Gregory Sampson to find the best battle on the racetrack. He's side by side with Stuart Nelson entering the chicane, and Sampson will make quick work of Nelson and jump back up into the top 10 after spinning out earlier. Good recovery for the 91 car.
A very good recovery indeed, but we now have a battle for second place. Earl Arts Jr. got caught up in some lap traffic. This allowed Chris Duffy to catch back up to the 61 Porsche as they go down the back straightaway, and that yellow rubber ducky is definitely closing into the back bumper of Earl Arts Jr.
Rubber ducky, are you the one? Asked Chris Duffy, and we'll see how much fun he has. Big time send into the chicane, and it just about worked, to be fair. He almost got in the back of Earl Arts Jr., but Arts got a great run through the chicane and stretched it out. So I don't know. I wonder if Duffy may have just given up all the time that he gained on corner entry there, because he couldn't get through the chicane all that quickly, and Arts was already slowed down enough to get the right run out of the chicane.
It's safe to say if Large Jr. had a rear view camera on the back bumper of that Porsche, that rubber ducky got mighty big on the back bumper of him as they were going to turn 10, but he was able to scoot away as quickly as possible and continue on his way. And if he's able to maintain that, he could come home with a top 2 finish.
Also of note, fairly certain that's the first time we've been able to make a Sesame Street reference on a PCA sim racing broadcast.
You're right.
Yeah, but if we're playing along right now, Jenson Benet is the big bird of the group and is only a few laps away from victory if he can just sort of coast out and ride these last few laps. Meanwhile, further back, how about Sebastiano Ballastieri and Dwayne Cronin go out? Good stuff between Ballastieri and go out just a little bit further back.
And then a little further up the road from those drivers, we have the 2 drivers who've been battling for 4th and 5th all night long, Bob Moore and Michael Masters. They're back at it once again as they come out of turn number 8 to head down the long back straightaway once again and continue on their way as we are under 3 minutes to go left on the clock, or about 3 laps to go here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Solid work across the board, but Benet's been the top man, and Moore and Masters have been just going at it tooth and nail, it seems like, all race long for this 5th position. Moore, part of the Northeast region, coming from Boston, Masters, Space Coast. So this is Northeast versus Florida coming down, and I guess meeting in Georgia, so not totally halfway, but certainly a somewhat middle meeting ground, perhaps.
A little bit of a north versus south here once again for that 4th position as they head into turn number 1. Down to the inside, we'll see Masters try to see if he can take a peek, but not close enough as they come up on the lap traffic of Pora as they're coming off pit road. Into turn 3 they'll go. They still have some more lap traffic in front of him right now. That looks like to be the number 43 of David Palmer, who's currently sitting 26.2 laps down.
Keep our eyes peeled for Jenson Benet and the 718 machine, who should, it looks like, have one more lap to go when he crosses the stripe. We'll keep an eye on timing and scoring and see where he pops across the line, but it was a 127.8, and he will just hit the 127 mark now. So this should be it for Jenson Benet. One lap to go before Benet picks up another win in PCA Sim Racing Sport Class in Series 5. Benet on the hunt and looking for another win to go with the one that he had at Mosport.
Safe to say, it's sunny days for Jenson Benet here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Not really any major challenges to Benet's pace. All right, it's I think in some cases he's probably merited that, or at least validated his skill level and made a pretty solid case that if we were running with the Series 4 rules, you'd probably see him running club next week with the way he's been going. But drivers who sit in a particular class are going to stay in that class all season long. So this is Benet's playground. If he keeps up this kind of pace week in, week out, nothing more than the chicane of the run under the bridge and down the hill before Benet picks up win number 2 in Series 5.
As he goes down the back straightaway for the final time, all clear, no one behind him, no one in front of him. He just has to get through turn 10 and turn 11 real smooth like, and he can actually pretty much just coast it if he wanted to. No issues, no pressure. Out of turn 10, turn 10B, under the Suzuki Bridge for the final time.
2 wins in the last 3 races now for the Lincoln Trail region's Jenson Benet, who comes across the line and wins round 4 for the PCA Sport Class. Series 5 of PCA Sim Racing at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. All about the 718 one more time as Earl Arts Jr. is going to beat Chris Duffy to the line. And the 61 will come home in second. Solid work for Benet to get it done. And remember, the last time he won, his brother Sean won in the club class. So the gauntlet has been thrown, I guess, again between the Benet brothers up in Illinois.
It certainly has, so we'll see if his brother can respond with the same position and finishing as we continue on here tonight.
Waiting for some of the final drivers to complete their races and keeping an eye on where everybody else is going to land in this race and where they come across the line. Good battles here with some of the lap cars and some of the drivers on the lead lap. Just watching Peter Yerkes come across the line to finish 8th this evening. Dwayne Cronin is the last car on the lead lap, so we'll keep our eyes peeled to see what Cronin can pull off or not pull off as Stuart Nelson comes through the chicane, and Cronin just enters it. Nelson will come across the line. Nelson will finish in the 11th spot, and as he comes home in 11th, that Cronin gets set to come down the bridge and finish in 12th. We can turn our attention to the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished this evening. Jensen Benet, you're a winner by 13 seconds ahead of Earl Arts Jr. Chris Duffy came home in the 3rd position. 4th went to Bob Moore. Michael Masters rounded out the top 5. Gary Rice finished in 6th. 7th was the number 7 of Ken Eskridge. Peter Yerkes finished in 8th. 9th went to George Markadakis, and 10th to the 91 car of Gregory Sampson.
Coming home in the 11th position after starting 12th will be Stuart Nelson. Dwayne Cronin will be finishing in 12th, the last car on the lead lap. First car 1 lap down, Sebastiano Ballastieri will start at 2nd. He'll finish in 13th. Morgan Gerlach will be finishing in the 14th position, followed by Al Sadut from the Buckeye area. He'll be finishing in the 15th position. Ronald Cahill will come home 16th. 17th will be Shahar Katz, followed by Jeff Williams in the 18th position. Arnie Clayson will be coming home in the 19th position, with David Centell rounding out your top 20.
21st went to Antonio da Silva. Nicholas Kilnani finished in 22nd. Jason Baum brought it home 23rd tonight. 24th went to the 9 car of Will Kelly. Mo Dodka was 25th tonight. 26th belongs to the 83 of Randall Ayers. David Palmer finished in 27th. And 28th was Stephen Bukowski. 29th to the 113 of Jody Panfa. Rounding out the top 30 was the 37 of James Bernard.
Donald Binkley in the 02 Porsche will be coming home in 31st, 4 laps down, followed by Ryan Mcgee in 32nd. Chip Witt will be coming home in the 33rd position, 5 laps down, followed by Dean Chapman in 34th. 35th position will be Stephen Bassini, followed by Theodius Nicolai in 36th. Carlo Borchetti will come home in 37th, followed by Brennan Jadette in 38th. Lonray Sarumi 39th, Julian Velez 40th, and Rusty Pruden rounds out your 41-car field.
So we now turn our attention to the driver who gets it done for another victory in PCA sim racing. Jensen Benet's got win number 2 in the sport class this evening. And Jensen, we've seen some rhythm tracks in PCA schedules in series past. We've seen some flow tracks in series past. Road Atlanta may qualify as the most rhythm dependent circuit of them all that PCA visits. How important is it to find a rhythm early on in a race and just stick to your points, lap in, lap out, in order to get the best times around here?
Oh, yeah, it was really crazy and intense, I tell you. Earl and Chris, they really gave me a fight to start. They were really consistent with sticking with me. And even around the lap traffic, like at one point I was blocked by one guy, and I told race control that they muted my mic to add more of a challenge for me, and worked out pretty well. Also, speaking of race control, I'm glad DJ Leon's, our race director, is all right. There was severe weather in his area a week ago, so I'm glad he's all right. And basically, the race was just pretty smooth. It was pretty sweet and enjoyable. I mean, Road Atlanta is a really great track. I really enjoy it. I'm playing it on the Forza games a lot as a kid. It's really enjoyable, I tell you.
Now, last time you went to Victory Lane, your brother Sean backed you up in the club class and did the same. So have you made any points to him yet, or had a chance to say, I've done my part, it's your turn to do your job now?
Yeah, I'm challenging him. Yeah, I said I challenge you to win.
So the gauntlet has been thrown. I know a lot of people make this car so quick week in, week out. Jensen, who do you need to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Well, first of all, I need to thank you guys. You guys are always great to talk to whenever somebody wins. I also need to thank my dad especially. He's the one who really gave me so much advice on the setup, and it really worked wonders. It really did. I mean, just like the 5-lap pace we had was incredible, I tell you. Really incredible.
Jensen, congratulations on victory number 2 of the season in Series 5. Thanks for the time as always, and on behalf of everyone at PCA and Podium Esports, we look forward to seeing you next week.
You too.
And that concludes coverage from the sport class, rather, of PCA Sim Racing, presented to you by Leland West. Leland West, rest insured. It is that time once again, if you're on YouTube, to click the blue button in the bottom left corner and switch on over to the club class broadcast presented by Michelin, which you'll see in just a few moments. And as you do, take a look at more of the action, more shots from this weekend's Peach State 225, the real-life PCA club racing event from Road Atlanta, hosted by the Peach State region of the PCA. We at Podium Esports will be right back after a short break with our third race of the evening from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.